Imagine waking up in the dead of night, knowing that a single miscalculation tomorrow could change your future forever. By sunset, there was no 911, no police dispatcher answering a radio, and no emergency room waiting to help you. This was the American Wild West. Across thousands of miles of untamed territory, making it through each day was a daily gamble, where success required as much pure luck as it did raw courage. Hollywood spent decades painting this era as a landscape of heroic lawmen and dramatic high noon duels. The historical frontier was much quieter, colder, and far more intimidating. Your most persistent enemy rarely waited for you behind a saloon door. Usually, it was the land itself, a silent, immovable force that never negotiated. For those millions of settlers chasing the horizon, the West was a grueling endurance test. It was a total vacuum of civilization where the comforts and constraints of modern society simply ceased to exist. As thousands pushed west, settlements like Deadwood and Tombstone appeared overnight. Wherever sudden wealth from gold and land discoveries flowed, a reputation for violence followed. Yet, historical records reveal that street shootouts were incredibly rare. Local leaders understood that alcohol and firearms were a lethal combination, so most frontier towns strictly banned guns inside city limits. When armed conflict did occur, it typically happened along isolated cattle trails and remote ranches. In these spaces, there were no witnesses, and the nearest form of justice was often hundreds of miles away. Even the legendary outlaws, whose names we still know today, were largely creations of the press. Newspapers competed to sell copies, often exaggerating every theft to turn common lawbreakers into larger-than-life figures. In an era of zero communication and slow travel, help was never coming. A single dangerous incident could become life-altering simply because the person involved was completely cut off from the rest of the world. Away from the boomtowns, the environment was openly hostile. Crossing empty deserts meant enduring temperatures that climbed above 40 degrees Celsius during the day, then dropped toward freezing after sunset. A single error in navigation could quickly become a death sentence. Travelers who misjudged the distance between water sources simply vanished, leaving behind nothing but abandoned wagons beside dry riverbeds. This environment bred the cowboy, but the reality of the workforce bore little resemblance to the symbol of ultimate freedom. Most riders were underpaid teenagers working 16-hour days through dust storms and freezing rain. They faced the constant danger of stampedes, where one frightened animal could lead to thousands of hooves knocking down both horse and rider. The independence of the open range came at a steep cost. This freedom was purchased with grueling, repetitive, and often dangerous physical labor. You could survive the heat and avoid the outlaws, only to be overcome by microscopic threats. Infectious illnesses like cholera, dysentery, and smallpox spread rapidly through crowded wagon trains and unsanitary mining camps. Because most settlements operated without a single doctor or basic medical supplies, these outbreaks became unchecked public health disasters. They could silently devastate entire communities in a matter of weeks. Before the age of modern medicine, even the smallest injury carried immense risk. A simple scrape from rusty metal or an infected wood splinter could easily threaten a person's life within days. These invisible biological threats took far more lives than any famous gunslinger. Simply existing on the frontier meant facing a daily battle against nature. As steel tracks carved through the wilderness, they brought vital medicine and tools. But the railroad was also an engine of systemic upheaval. Communities thrived where the trains stopped, while towns bypassed by the tracks quickly withered away. For Native American nations, this industrial expansion brought widespread, tragic relocation. As migration accelerated, indigenous families faced brutal conflict, broken treaties, and severe food shortages as they were forced from their ancestral lands. Beyond the sweeping forces of illness and industry, pioneers faced another relentless challenge: the psychological toll of absolute isolation. Imagine sitting in a tiny cabin at midnight and hearing strange footsteps outside. There are no neighbors, no streetlights, and no telephones for hundreds of miles. You wouldn't know if it was an animal or an intruder until the door opened. This constant uncertainty forced pioneers to treat every shadow and every approaching stranger as a possible threat. Considering the compounding challenges of illness, starvation, and isolation, a central question remains. Why did millions of people willingly walk into this environment? For many, the promise of owning land and escaping poverty outweighed the statistical likelihood of hardship. Hope acted as a powerful, albeit dangerous, instinct. For every family overwhelmed by frontier hardships, another truly believed they would be the exception. This stubborn optimism pushed them to build homes directly into the earth itself. Endurance for the average shopkeeper or farmer required quiet, repetitive persistence. They woke each morning to face the same demanding conditions, choosing to keep going until the wilderness slowly gave way to community. The West remains a source of fascination because it acted as a pressure cooker, removing every external rule and safety net. It reveals the true grit that remains when all modern protection is stripped away, and perseverance becomes the only rule left standing.